went to Northeastern University through the Center for the Study of Sport and Society when I retired from football in 1994, and started to work with a gentleman named Jackson Katz, a name that may be familiar to some folks in the room, who was looking at the issue of men's violence against women as Quentin mentioned earlier, not as a women's issue, but as a men's issue. As a men's issue, recognizing that 90% of violence that's committed against women and girls is committed by men. It's our issue. It's a men's issue because we all, as men, have women in our lives that we care about. It's a men's issue. And I always say that if racism were a black issue, I would not be standing here or sitting here. White people confronted other white people, and slavery ended, and Jim Crow ended. And they did so by confronting the multitude of contributing factors, language, culture, economics, by confronting it in every single place that it existed. And that, to me, was what was so necessary for me as a man to be involved in the work to prevent violence against women, was not just to say to men that it's wrong and it's bad, but to really drill down about where we're making our decisions, how we're making our decisions, recognizing that in order for the violence to end, we as men have to be a part of the dialogue. We have to be a part of the solution. And that has to happen independent of women's voices. And then why I say that that's critically important is that the way that myself and people like Jackson Katz came to this work, and I'm in the College Football Hall of Fame, and I am a feminist. I'm on the board of the Ms. Foundation for Women. And I can say those things, and they are important, but it's not the answer. And those of us who came to this work, the men of us who came to this work from the feminist movement, from the women's movement, from the domestic violence movement that came out of those movements, we have learned from women. And the work has been centered around women's experiences, women's understanding of violence in families, women's understanding of how we move towards solutions. And we as men have not taken a step up. We haven't taken a leadership role to talk about men's experiences. So what has happened is that we have a lot of men who have come into the work, and we have generations of men, of young men, who have heard the message from many of us, and who have heard it from women on college campuses and in law offices and in different sectors of our society, who have spoken as survivors, who have made men recognize the scope and awareness of the problem. And we as men have gotten very good at saying, you know what, yes, violence against women is wrong, but we haven't gotten to the point where we say going to a strip club is wrong, or that pornography is wrong. We haven't gotten to that point where we started talking about our own, and the previous speaker in this room talked about being damaged by patriarchy. Men have been damaged by patriarchy. And that is what has kept men silent. And I'm going to come to that in a moment, because this was my understanding as I moved through this work, that we were, again, if we wanted men to act differently, we had to confront the way men and boys were being socialized and to identify themselves as men. And so I came to a question that I asked far too often to men, or when I say far too often, every time I speak, is what was the worst insult we could ever hear as a little boy? As a little boy, not as an adult man. You throw like a girl, you run like a girl. And we hear also, so two things happen in that language. The first thing that happens is that we learn that being a man is a very narrowly defined thing. We have to be tough, strong, we can't cry. There's a lot of don'ts. Don't show your emotions. Don't express your feelings. Don't cry. I always say we don't raise boys to be men. We raise boys not to be women. Because we don't tell boys what it means to be a whole person. We're giving them half of the story. And half of that story is taught when you teach only half a story. You have to have a nice caveat that keeps people from searching for the other half. And that is the whole point of you throw like a girl. It is degrading to women and girls. It is saying that women and girls are less than. And as long as you're part of the group, as long as you're part of the group of guys, in other words, as long as you don't side with women, you're okay.